Reality-based thinking represents a totally different paradigm. In today's world, most business initiatives have a very low probability of success. That means that the odds are stacked against you before you even begin. Furthermore, the odds get worse as you proceed. Reality-based thinking changes those odds. It uses reality and what is realistic to increase the probability of success from very low to very high. When beginning a business initiative, most people use target-based thinking. Target-based thinking focuses on a desired target that has no basis in reality or what is realistic. Reality-based thinking focuses on reality and what is realistic. The difference is dramatic. The entire initiative is under control because everything is based upon fact-based logic and performed within the context of reality and what is realistic. And the difference is dramatic. Target-based thinking has a very low probability of success. Typically, it's around 3 to 5%. Reality-based thinking is much higher. Expectations for reality-based thinking hover around 70 to 80%. Let's look at target-based thinking. The essential elements are the target, the plan, and the execution. First is the target. Target-based thinking begins with a desired target that has no basis in reality. The target has not, and in many cases, cannot be verified with fact-based logic. It's based on social science. Social science states that humans can achieve anything they set their minds to because humans can perform beyond what is considered to be normal. Stated another way, anything is possible because failure is not an option. This ignores reality and what is realistic. First, not everything is possible. And second, failure is always an option. Second is the plan. Then, target-based thinking reverse engineers a plan to go from the starting point to the target. But there's a problem. Even if the plan is complete and logical, the fact is that the target is unrealistic. This assures that the plan will not work. It gets worse if the plan is not complete or logical. For example, most plans do not include sick days and unforeseen events, such as risks. Third is execution. Target-based execution depends upon a team that has a sufficient number of competent people. You'd be amazed how many times that just isn't true. Heroic effort means that the team will perform the planned work no matter how many hours per day it will take. Then the team will perform beyond the normal to solve any unforeseen problems that will occur. The solution is up to the problem-solving efforts of the team. The result is that target-based thinking is unmanageable. First, it ignores fact-based logic. Facts and logic are either ignored or not verified. Therefore, everything is unreliable. Ultimately, target-based thinking assumes that the target, the plan, and execution are unknowable. The rationale is that the world is complicated and dynamic. No one knows what will happen tomorrow, so planning is a waste of time. Because the world is dynamic, ad hoc management is applied. This is just another word for brush fire management, where the team will go from one crisis to another crisis. That means that the team will have to perform heroic effort to complete the initiative. But heroic effort is just the result of brush fire management. Even if the team comes up with a good solution, they have created another problem because heroic effort adds time and money to the initiative. This, in turn, creates more problems later in the initiative because the team is behind schedule and the solution has introduced new, unplanned elements which will have to be addressed later in the business initiative. In conclusion, things tend to get worse in almost every circumstance. Lastly, target-based thinking depends upon the human brain to process all of this, because the initiative is using ad hoc management and heroic effort. This may be the worst element in the entire situation. Let's take a look at that in more detail. Think that you can think clearly? Well, think again. The human brain suffers from an imbalance between capability and capacity. What does that mean? Capability is the number of things that can be held in the brain. In other words, it's the number of data points that the brain can identify and track. Well, the brain operates on about 10 to 15 watts of power. That's about 1/4 of the power used by the light bulb in your refrigerator. That means that the brain has the capacity to recognize and process about 4 to 6 things, maximum. Capability is the ability to do something. In this case, the brain has enormous capability. Because of the millions of connections between the nodes in our brain, the brain has the capability to instantly fill in the holes between the 4 or 5 actual facts. The problem is that many times the data we fill in is opinion, bias, or just simply false. This study shows just a few examples of what can go wrong. We don't have time to present all of these problems, so I'm going to focus on the problems presented when we have too much information. First, we notice things already primed in memory or repeated often. This includes things like availability bias, content effect, and base rate fallacy. Another area is that unusual things tend to stick out more than usual things. The problems here are going to be bizarreness effect and negativity bias. We notice things change more than when they remain the same. And here problems are going to be things like anchoring and contrast bias. Another area of problems is that we are drawn to details that tend to confirm our beliefs. And here we have confirmation bias and subjective validation. And lastly, we notice flaws in other people more than our own flaws. Problems here are going to be bias blind spots and naive realism. Now, all of these things might be perfectly normal, but they simply don't work in a business initiative. So, if target-based thinking doesn't work, so now what? This is usually the solution. Drinking from a fire hose is the most common solution, but I wouldn't recommend it. What we need is a whole new approach. So let me introduce the principles of reality-based thinking. This is a unique harmonization and delivery of proven practices and techniques. First, reality is not negotiable, because reality is what is real. We simply cannot change the physical laws of the universe. Second, reality always wins. If we ignore reality, we're going to pay a price. Next, risk equals reality. A risk is an uncertain event that may or may not happen. I like to think of it as Murphy's Law. I've never seen an initiative yet that went exactly according to plan, even if it was a great plan. Risk is where reality and business change intersect. If the risk does happen, it will impact the success of our initiative. It could be a positive impact. More likely, it will be a negative impact. Therefore, you have to know what you know and what you don't know. This is the first step in getting control of uncertainty and risk. This leads you to know the boundaries between what you know and what you don't know. This is the second step in getting control of risk and uncertainty. It places limits on the possible outcomes or goals. And this dramatically increases the probability of success because we now know what is realistically possible. Next, accuracy is more important than precision. Accuracy is the range of what we know to be true. Precision is an exact number or a very narrow range of numbers, but they may not be in the range of what we know to be true. In other words, there's no way to know if the precise number is true. Ideally, we want an answer that is both accurate and precise, but usually that doesn't happen, especially at the beginning of an initiative. A risk profile is simply a list of all the possibilities. In other words, once we know the realistic boundaries, we want to know all of the possibilities within those boundaries. Those are the realistic goals that are available to us. Once we know all of the possibilities within the realistic boundaries, we can use techniques such as expected value analysis to determine the probability of each possibility. Probability analysis tells us the likelihood of each goal. Impact analysis tells us the effect of each goal. And all of this can be used to determine the business value of our initiative. When I introduced target-based thinking, I talked about the target, the strategy or plan, and the execution. Well, let's apply the same thinking to reality-based thinking. In reality-based thinking, we don't begin with a target. First, we begin by identifying the realistic outcomes. We keep in mind the risk and uncertainty associated with each outcome. Second, we identify the optimal outcome. Third, we create a dynamic plan that will navigate to the optimal outcome. And fourth, we execute the most efficient plan that will navigate to the optimal outcome. Execution is often overlooked, so let's spend some time on execution. The Economist reported in their latest economic forecast that the productivity of knowledge workers is the biggest single point of failure facing business today. Knowledge workers are the people responsible for turning vision into effective action that will reach the goal. The problem is not that people aren't working hard, it's just that they're not getting anywhere. In other words, hard work is not progress. Every business owner knows that execution is where the rubber meets the road. Having the best strategy and plan is useless if you can't execute the plan to reach the goal. Think of it this way. Would you accept a second-rate strategy and problematic plan if you knew you had an 85% chance of achieving all of your monetary, schedule, and product goals? Of course you would. An 85% chance of success provides a lot of room for mistakes in the strategy and the plan. In many ways, execution is the most important part of the initiative. Reality-based management offers a solution that will provide an execution with a high probability of achieving your monetary, schedule, and product goals. Reality-based management uses a tool called Overwatch. Overwatch constantly monitors all of the most relevant elements that impacts your business. It identifies all the degrees of variation of all the combinations of all the normal activities in your business. It also identifies all the degrees of variation of all the combinations of all of the possible risks in your business. Then it constantly analyzes all of the combinations of the possible degrees of variation in your normal business activities, combined with your risks and your impact to your business, and determines how to navigate through your dynamic situation so that you will have a high probability of achieving your optimal goal. In other words, Overwatch produces a dynamic optimal path to navigate through all of the variations and risks to provide a high probability that you will reach your ultimate goal. Think of driving to a city far away from you. You determine the range of outcomes for route, time, distance, money, hotels, etc. You determine the optimal route from the range of outcomes. You get in the car and you begin your journey. Normally this isn't sufficient because there may be bad weather, detours, and other unforeseen problems. You don't have any information about the dynamics of your current situation as you're driving. Now, assume that you have a drone named Overwatch that flies above your car from the beginning to the end of your journey. It constantly observes everything around you for a radius of 100 miles. It is constantly updating traffic conditions, accidents, closed roads, weather, etc. It analyzes everything that might impact your journey and dynamically provides recommended changes based upon the current conditions that will optimize your journey. Overwatch does the same thing for your business initiative. It monitors the internal elements of your initiative, including unforeseen problems. It monitors the external elements of your initiative, such as economic and regulatory elements. Then, Overwatch analyzes all of the data and recommends changes that will navigate around the problems and constantly make your work more efficient so that you will reach your best possible outcome. But you don't have to take anyone's word for it. I will happily demonstrate how this will work for your business. Get in touch with us at Reality Based Management. jsponholtz@realitymgr.com, 513-253-3330.